Chapter 7. Masters of Our Destiny. Monsieur Jourdain, the bourgeois gentleman, spoke prose without knowing it, in the same way we all practice autosuggestion, but often without being conscious of it. To a certain extent, autosuggestion may be automatic, in the sense that it may not be inspired or guided by deliberate reflection. But how much more potent a factor it must be in our lives when we have learned its mechanism and discovered how to make use of it for our own ends. The act of breathing is automatic, yet we can modify at will our manner of breathing. We can improve our health by learning to breathe in a certain way, and by doing regular breathing exercises. So it is with autosuggestion. Once we realize its force and learn to control it, we are the masters of our destinies. Babies automatically practice autosuggestion. Let me give you an illustration of an automatic practice of autosuggestion. A newborn baby in its cradle begins to cry. Immediately its mother takes it in her arms. The infant stops crying and is replaced in the cradle, whereupon the crying begins all over again, only to stop once more if the baby be lifted from its cradle. The operation may be repeated an almost unlimited number of times, always with the same results. The child, lacking conscious thought, is automatically practicing autosuggestion. It obtains the gratification of its unconscious desire to be taken into its mother's arms by crying. If resisted, on the other hand, if left to cry alone in its cradle, its subconscious mind will register the fact, and the baby will not take the trouble to cry, because it knows it will have no effect. Self-mastery means health, and it is like that with everyone from birth to death. We live by autosuggestion. We are governed by our subconscious mind. Happily, we are able to guide it by our own reason. Like everything else, however, the science of autosuggestion has to be learned. It is a matter of educating oneself up to the point where complete control of the subconscious mind is attained. That means self-mastery and health. Prevention is better than cure. The idea of good health begets good health, and if by accident we are attacked by disease, we are certain to have an infinitely greater chance of resisting and of rapidly throwing off the malady by practicing autosuggestion than if we know nothing of its principles. Have you noticed this during epidemics? It is well-known fact that persons who, in such times, go serenely about their business, not worrying for themselves, and not giving thought to the epidemic except to tell themselves that they are sure not to catch the sickness, are almost always immune and escape contagion. On the other hand, nervous people, frightened by the cases around them, and allowing their thoughts to run constantly on the prevailing malady, are certain to fall ill, despite all their precautions. Amazing instances of the power of suggestion are recorded in the annals of the faculty of Paris. Professor Boucher relates the following among many others. An old lady, after undergoing a desperate surgical operation, was dying. Her son was due to arrive from India 2 days later. Humanly speaking, it was impossible for her to live so long. The method of suggestion was resorted to. She was told that she was better and she would see her son on the morrow. The result was a complete success. A fortnight later, the old lady was still alive, and from a medical point of view, that was a miracle. Equally miraculous, to all appearance, was the case of a man occupying an important position at Nancy a few years ago. He came to me suffering from sinusitis. He had undergone 11 operations, but the terrible disease continued its ravage. He was in a horrible condition, physically and morally. Day and night, without intermission, the unfortunate man was tortured by excruciating pains in the head, which prevented him from sleeping. His weakness was extreme, and his appetite non-existent. Most of the time he remained helpless on a sofa. I confess that I had little hope of being able to do anything for him. However, I took pains to convince him of the efficacy of suggestion, and thought there seemed to be no amelioration during 5 or 6 sittings. I could see that the man, sick as he was, had gained absolute faith in the soundness of the theories I had expounded to him. He told me he was daily directing his subconscious mind to the idea of healing his sickness. Then one day he said he believed that he felt a slight improvement, but was not quite sure. It was the truth, however, and the improvement continued. A complete cure followed rapidly. Today that man is perfectly healthy, able to work without fatigue. The discharges from the nose, which occurred daily, have ceased. I remember another remarkable case of collective autosuggestion, more or less automatic this time. It happened in the hospital services of Dr. Renaud in Paris. A new serum, an alleged cure for tuberculosis, had just been discovered. It was tested on the patients. Apparently, as a result of the injections, all showed an immediate improvement. The coughing diminished, and other symptoms disappeared, and the general condition of all began to be very satisfactory. Alas, shortly afterward it became known that the famous serum, from which the patients unconsciously hoped for so much, was nothing but an ordinary drug which had been previously tested with negative results. At once, with the fading away of their illusion, the sick men and women lost all the improvement gained, and their old symptoms reappeared. Modern miracles. Modern miracles happen in our time as they have done in the past. I mean the things that are called miracles, for of course there is no such thing as a miracle. The modern miracle is worked by autosuggestion, the wonderful force entrusted to us by nature, and which, if we will all probe its mysteries, shall make us all powerful within the limits of human possibility. Fatality, fatalism, shall lose their meaning, nay, they cannot exist, save in our erring imagination. For it is we ourselves who alone shall shape our destinies, rising always above the external circumstances and conditions, from which time to time may be thrown across our path. End of chapter.